Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So this one is quite a long time coming. I have a pretty decent collection of Walt Disney Classics collection pieces, and I've never really done a review of any of them actually. So this is going to start that mini series, so to speak. And I had to choose this piece for so many reasons, and there's basically so much to really say about the Walt Disney Classics collection. And so maybe, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. Maybe I will kind of parse out maybe the information little by little. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes and how long this video is. So in any case, this is obviously a statue of Belle and the Beast dancing from the classic animated motion picture Beauty and the Beast from Disney Classics, released in 1991. So why is this piece so special to me? To start with, there's nothing I think inherently valuable about it other than the fact that it's still one of the most beautiful porcelain pieces I've ever seen, and that it perfectly sort of encapsulates the central characters of Beauty and the Beast. But they made, I think, probably tons of these, maybe tens of thousands of these. I don't know how many they made. It's not numbered, and I don't think it's rare at all in any sense of the word. But it's special for me because of the memories that it brings back. And believe it or not, this was my very first real statue that I ever bought. And where to start? Well, I guess we should start in terms of the background with the fact that I saw Beauty and the Beast in 1991, and I just fell in love with the movie. At that time, Disney had sort of fallen into a little bit of a rut. They were trying to fight against the perception that basically they were only for kids. And they had also come off of this rather unfortunate movie called The Black Cauldron, which was really dark and not quite, in Disney's wheelhouse. So they were in a little bit of trouble. And then Little Mermaid came out, which was very good. And then Beauty and the Beast sort of roared onto the scene. And when I saw Beauty and the Beast in the theater, I was one of the doubters. I went to see it because at the time I was in high school. I think I was a junior in high school, and I think the girl that I liked wanted to go see it. So of course, to make her happy, I went along with it. But I remember loving it so much. From the very first shot, when they had that amazing pan through the wilderness with a waterfall and then the music and the narration, it sort of captured my imagination. And even to this day, like decades later, it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's definitely my favorite Disney movie of all time. And, with the advent of social media and the internet and the Facebook, I realized that I was far from the only one, that there's a lot of people who love Beauty and the Beast. And so for me, I try to buy everything associated with Beauty and the Beast. I got the soundtrack. I bought the VHS tape when it first came out. I watched it multiple times, to the point where I think I even sort of wore out the tape a little bit. But back then, you have to understand that merchandising was very, very primitive. You have your toys, your stickers, and children's things, but real high-end merchandising was very, very rare. And 1991, where the internet was in its infancy, if it even existed, I don't really remember. where do you find high-end things? And so I remember that I always really wanted a great statue of Belle and the Beast, and I could never find it. It was always sort of like the cheap-looking toy-like statues that were out there. And I remember our family went for a vacation to Disneyland, and one of the only things I really wanted as a souvenir when I went to Disneyland was to find something like this. But of course, at that time, this wasn't available. It wasn't even made yet. And I remember searching long and hard. And I had, of course, a great time at Disneyland, but there was just really nothing to buy that I really felt was worthy. And I remember finally, on the last day, as there was literally no souvenirs I could find, I wound up just buying a teapot of Mrs. Potts. And I think I still have it in my parents' place up in San Francisco. But it was like a one-to-one, like life-size actual teapot that looked like Mrs. Potts from the movie. And that was like the best I could do. So fast forward from there about 6 years. And I was at Berkeley and I had graduated. And so to celebrate, I went with my girlfriend at the time and one of our best friends together. And the three of us decided to celebrate by going to Walt Disney World for, I think, 4 or 5 days. And we went there and we went to Magic Kingdom. And at that time, I really, again, wanted, I had not forgotten. So 6 years later, I again really wanted sort of like the ultimate statue representation of my favorite movie. And finally, after all these years, this was available. And I remember seeing this in the castle, Cinderella's castle at Magic Kingdom, all those now decades ago. And back then, they were selling the Walt Disney Classics collection. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that collection is and what it means. But in terms of this piece, I saw this piece and it just took my breath away. It was sort of like, fulfilled all my dreams. Like, if you are, it might be hard to appreciate this, but if you are a Beauty and the Beast fan, if you love Beauty and the Beast, then this statue just fulfills everything you want as a collectible from that movie. It shows Belle. So there's a few things. Number one, it shows Belle and the Beast in their iconic, dancing pose from the ballroom scene, and that is iconic. That's number one. Number two, this is literally a perfect representation of them from the movie. It looks like they basically twirled right out of the ballroom onto your kitchen table in 3D form. The sculptors did an amazing job translating, the 2D art into this 3D form. And that obviously, of course, was one of the goals of the Walt Disney Classics collection. And of course, looking over his shoulder, Belle's face was just so beautiful, so accurate to the movie, wonderful makeup. So this was what I had dreamed of for literally years since the movie came out in 1991. So I bought it. At the time, it was $300. And when you are a poor college student, $300 might as well be $3,000. It was the most expensive thing I had ever bought in my life up until then. And I bought it. It came in its big green Walt Disney Classics Collection WDCC box. It was so precious to me. And just to show you how times have changed, when we left Florida, when we left Magic Kingdom, they actually allowed me to bring it on as a carry-on. This gigantic box that houses this, and the stewardess was kind enough to actually take the box and put it in her closet, in her storage. And again, it just kind of shows you what the planes were like, how much free space there was, and I hand carried this all the way from Florida back to San Francisco. And it has stayed with me all that time. And in fact, for my graduation present, my parents actually bought a little display cabinet, a little display case to house this because I loved it so much. And this, my first statue, I would actually put on my desk where I studied and I just look at it, and it was always with me. And so this is why I chose to start my Walt Disney Classics Collection review with this beautiful piece, because it has so many memories for me. You know, again, the best piece you can possibly get of your two favorite characters from your favorite movie. How much better could it be than that? And I remember this was back in the mid to late 90s, where stuff like this just don't exist. I mean, today it's like there's literally 1 million statues of everything in comics, you know, from top to bottom. Sideshow, Prime One, Iron Studio, okay, Customs, it goes on and on. But remember that back then, there just wasn't anything out there. So for this to be there was just so special. So what is really there to say about this piece? There's so much to say. Number one, why does it look so unique? Look at the detail of the sculpt, the detail in the beast's face. It's so accurate, and there's just this level of fidelity and this level of beauty that you can't really get with any other type. And look at Belle's face. Look at how beautiful she is. Look at the colors of the piece, the deep blue of the jacket, the, of course, iconic gold of her ball gown. And I think it's really hard to see because of, again, the lighting and all that, but her dress is painted in opalescent yellow, opalescent gold, which means that it kind of glows. It casts this very subtle, unique sheen when you see it in person. In addition, there's a lot of obvious details in the paint. It's all perfectly accurate, from the hair of Belle's, from Belle's hair to the fur of the beast. And then, of course, there's also little bits of plussing. And by that, I mean, like, over here, this is actually, gold paint. And I think his cufflinks are gold as well. I'm sorry, not cufflinks, but this little, I don't even know what to call this thing, this little pin that I guess, keeps that little tie in place or whatever. It's a cravat pin or something like that. So in any case, in addition to the porcelain, there's this concept called plussing, where the Walt Disney Classics collection will put the little pieces, little touches that set it above and beyond to give you that little bit of personalization, a little bit of class, so to speak. And of course, the most important, which I leave for last, the most important thing about this piece is that this is all porcelain, fine porcelain, not cold cast, not resin, but porcelain. And I will go into the details of porcelain perhaps in another video to see why this is so special. But this is why something like this, you just can't replicate, not even in today's time, because this is actually fine porcelain, and it's not cold cast. It has to be created, handmade, piece by piece, hand painted. It has to be fired in a kiln for the colors to set. And so it, it creates this final product that is utterly unique, and which, quite sadly, no equivalent exists in today's collecting world. No equivalent exists of this. And even in Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom, where now they have a lot of big figs, and the big figs are nice, but the big figs are not porcelain. And they do not come anywhere close to the quality and, again, the fidelity, the authenticity of these pieces to the actual animated pictures that inspired them. So again, overall, when you look at it, it's just perfect. The pose, the quality of the porcelain, the vibrant colors, as vibrant as the day I bought it back in 1996, I believe. So that is 23 years ago. It looks just as beautiful now as it did then. And again, it is my very first statue, my very, very first statue. It started my statue collecting craze. So for that, it always has a special place in my collection. It's the one that started it all. And hopefully, by looking at it, you can kind of see how great it is. You can see the details of the beast's paws, the fingers, And again, just kind of the natural pose, the perfect pose from the movie. And understand that, you know, this is not actually something where you sculpt it out of resin, you mold and you cast. That is all done, of course, but it's done in porcelain, which makes this a lot more difficult, a lot more, pricey, a lot more labor. A lot of these things have to be done in pieces, you know. And remember, again, like the actual, the paws, you know, the claws, all of these things, the arms, etc. All of these are porcelain, you know, and so that once I explain to you how they have to actually make it, it's almost a little bit of a miracle that they were able to do this for so long. So again, this is Beauty and the Beast, and they all actually have names and a like a little, I guess, stamp to show you what year they were released. And they're very heavy. Again, this is not light stuff. You know, there's actually a weight to it. So if you lift it up, you can see the Classics collection right here, Beauty and the Beast, and this is Tale as Old as Time, okay? And then there's a little stamp here that sort of shows you what year it was released. Handcrafted in Thailand. So here you go, you can see the holes there to kind of let off the, I guess, the gas and all that stuff when you finally fire it in the kiln, and then you put it gently back right over here. So as I do more Walt Disney Classics collection pieces, I'll go over, to fill in some of the time, I'll go over sort of the process of how they're made and why they're, again, so special, why there's so many people who love these pieces so much. So some of the other pieces won't quite have as much history as this piece, and so there won't be as much to say, and so I'll take that opportunity to fill in the blanks on what distinguishes, again, the Walt Disney Classics collection from so many other pieces. So once again, Tale as Old as Time, Belle and the Beast Dancing from Beauty and the Beast, porcelain, fine art porcelain, still one of the best in the entire line. So I hope you enjoyed that. There'll be a lot more Walt Disney Classics reviews to come. It'll be interspersed and mixed with my other reviews of statues and odd things here or there, and shields and swords and whatnot, and miniatures. But again, for those of you who like to learn about different things and different things that people collect, I hope this gives you an interesting watch. And part of the reason, by the way, I'm doing this is because, here I'm gonna go a little bit close to kind of hopefully give you an idea of the shimmer of that gorgeous ball gown. But part of the reason I'm doing this is because, I'll move this over a little bit, is because there are very, very little YouTube videos of the Walt Disney Classics collection pieces. There's a store called the Collection Shop, and they have hundreds of them, but all it is really is just basically advertisement. Now, nobody talks about it. There's no stories surrounding it. You don't get to go in and out and really look at the details and the wonderful angles and the colors. It's just basically advertisement, like 45 seconds, and it just takes a generic Walt Disney Classics collection piece, whatever it is, and it just does a 360, and then that's it. And it's set to some very nice music. So there aren't really any reviews of, like, say, passionate collectors talking about these pieces and talking about why they love them. Now, there are Facebook groups. There's one, I think, there's a whole bunch of Walt Disney Classics collection Facebook groups. There's one called the Canoodlers, and there's some great collectors over there, but they don't make videos. They don't talk too much about it. They'll post pictures, and it's a wonderful collecting community. But I just feel like it's sort of a shame because there's so many YouTube channels reviewing Marvel statues and just statues in general. There's statues of horror movies, Avengers, Marvel, DC, you name it, it's their anime. And there are statue collectors out there who, make their YouTube videos and publicize it and talk about it. And I really enjoy watching it because, again, you can see pieces that you would normally never have a chance to own And I just thought to myself, how come there isn't any for Walt Disney Classics collection? Because these are some of the best statues ever made. And they're made in fine art porcelain, which is ultra rare. And fine art porcelain of this detail, this quality, of this accuracy to the movie just doesn't really, it's not there. You know, it's just so rare. It's not able to be made. The labor, the cost, I think, is too high. And there's nothing out there to publicize it. And so I thought that was really a shame. There's no, like I said, there's a couple, but it's just shocking. Like I think I couldn't find more than about 2 or 3 channels, and they're like 7 videos, 5 videos. There's some lady, I think, who's, you know, she's Asian. She doesn't, I don't think she speaks English. She doesn't speak in them. So it's just so few and far in between. So I really wanted to kind of take that opportunity to try to put my mark on it. I don't have anywhere near the extensive WDCC collection that many others have, especially on the Canoodlers group. But you know, I have quite a bit. I mean, I have every single Beauty and the Beast Walt Disney Classics collection piece out there. And I have a smattering of other, what I consider very, very high quality pieces that, even though I'm not, you know, a fan of the movie, I felt I had to buy because they were just such, you know, such works of art that I wanted to have in my collection. So hopefully with my humble classics collection, at least I will be able to put it to video and to showcase that off. So this is like another way to sort of publicize it, and for people who are interested to be able to truly appreciate the beauty of it. Because, I mean, the number one option is to see it in person. But failing that, I think a YouTube video or a video review like this is the next best thing, so you can actually see it dynamically, moving around, seeing all of the colors, getting close-ups, and you know, seeing sort of the beauty of it. You can actually, I'll gently tap it, so you can actually hear the hollow, you know, the hollow ring. You can tell this is porcelain, because these pictures really do these pieces so little justice. So that's kind of my incentive again for making some videos with the Walt Disney Classics collection. So again, hope you enjoyed me ranting and raving and rambling. But while I'm doing so, I'm giving you all the close-ups, moving him around, moving her around, so you can see it from all different angles. You can really appreciate the magic of the Walt Disney Classics collection. It really is magical. So hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, do take care.